Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Thursday edition of the FNN Politics and Power Series. I'm on location. We just wrapped up another show, but thank you so much, Alexis Lok, for coming back on the show, for joining us back on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys will probably remember back in April, we had Alexis on for hashtag Fair Housing Month. But today we're going to get into the other topic. We touched on a little bit of the difference between the two back in April, but today we're going to talk in detail more about housing equity. Thank you so much for coming back, Alexis.
Yeah, thank you for having me, y'all.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's get into a little more detail about housing equity. Like, what is it specifically, and why is it so important for folks to, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So when we had talked about fair housing, it's important to distinguish that fair housing was a law that had protected classes under it. And equity has been a hot topic since 2020 after the Black Lives Movement. We've noticed disparities
Yes.
all across the board when it comes from corporate to Hollywood. And now, we are making it a prime topic here when it comes to the landscape of real estate because it is a conversation that needs to be had. So when we talk about the difference, fair housing is a law that real estate professionals and realtors have to follow. But when we talk about equity, it's more of the quality of being fair and having equal treatment. And that's where we have to have a just open discussion about that.
Yes. Very important. Very important. So, kind of talk about the landscape as you've seen it so far. And what are some kind of misconceptions or areas of confusion that you would want to clear up about that?
Yeah, certainly. So I can tell you that the National Association of Realtors has made it their prime objective to study this topic further. Where are the disparities? But
Hmm.
I think when a lot of people think about equity, we keep it specific to the classes of national origin, color, or race. But the conversation does bleed into the other classes as well. We need to have more data in terms of what does it look like for a handy capable person, and are they getting the consultations that they need to have home ownership? Or what about sexual orientation and sex when it comes to those topics of did they get equal treatment? Because a lot of these, especially when your sexual orientation, if you're lesbian, bi, transgender, when you're in a partnership, that partnership went unrecognized for quite a period of time,
Hmm.
and they weren't able to have the tax incentives that married couples have because the government didn't recognize them at that point. So when we talk about fairness, could we say that we're a little bit behind? Yeah, absolutely. The treatment is also bleeds into handy capable as well as sexual orientation or gender identity.
By the way, I hope you guys caught what she said there. I love that term, handy capable. That was really cool.
Yeah,
I hadn't
definitely.
heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very cool. So, and thanks for talking about those misconceptions and the things that people aren't really talking about that do need to be addressed.
Yes.
Definitely appreciate that. And obviously, back in April, we did talk about the spike in sort of the real estate investing that's like kind of coming to Central Florida, but kind of talk about that in the context of housing equity now, like for folks that are honestly looking to own a home, but they might be getting edged out, and you know maybe the investors are getting prioritized by comparison.
Right. So, this is a really tough topic. I've actually gone back and forth with quite a few of my colleagues on this topic because recently a local news channel did a whole article and a whole expose
Hmm.
about how real estate investors or corporations are coming in and purchasing real estate. And,
Hmm.
I don't have enough data to really speak onto the topic, but I am concerned a little bit about how we're classifying real estate investors, because often I will be working with an individual who is just purchasing a property for themselves,
Hmm.
and they're purchasing it under an LLC because their CPA or their accountant advised them to do so to offer them a tax shelter.
Right.
So my concern is what we have seen, and what I've personally seen is the migration from other areas.
Right.
So when we talk about migration from up north, somebody from New Jersey who just sold their apartment that was 900 square feet at $3 million comes down here and sees a single family home for under a million, they kind of, that was what kind of we saw that jacked the price up in the regular housing market. So it's really the flood of cash in the market that came
Hmm.
through. And I think that, again, until I get more data and can set eyes on it, I don't want to say that it was real estate investors, but we are definitely getting outbidded by the migration of cash into Orlando and into Central Florida.
Just as a bit of a follow up question, as someone who is a realtor, and how do you normally, how would you help your clients navigate something like that to be able to get the home that they're looking for?
Yeah. Well, good news is that with the rising interest rates, the competition, we've weeded out a lot of competition, right?
Mm,
But during that process, right, it was more so, again, about finding that seller that maybe was on the edge of selling and getting them before they went onto the market, right? Or before they met with a real estate professional and give them fair market value. So that was one strategy that we utilized throughout the competitive market stage. Another strategy we would utilize is, yes, we would, go in and say, hey, if it's a term issue, then will you accept our lower priced offer, but we will waive inspections, we will waive appraisal, and only do it for informative purposes. That was ways that we would like go in and navigate. Also, just showing seriousness on the contract. The seller only sees the contract, they don't see who the buyer is or who the real estate agent is on the other end. So the way you can really show, like, hey, I'm in this to win this. I'm
mhm.
not a hassle. I just really want your home because I want to start, building wealth and having a home for my family, is
Right.
putting a really large escrow deposit down. Now, there are protections within that. And it definitely takes an experienced professional to guide you through that process.
Mm,
But that also shows the seller that you are serious. And often investors, they don't think like, oh, well, let's put more cash into escrow, because in their heads, they think that they have a lot of the power, along with cash buyers, that they also think that they have a lot of power because it's a cash offer. But sometimes that heavy escrow will really move a seller to lean toward your offer versus the full cash offer that may be offering something different.
very interesting. That's actually pretty educational, and that actually answered one of the other questions I was going to ask you, which is how can we empower potential homeowners, or folks who may be looking to own a second home, as you said, kind of building wealth. Some people may be looking to build wealth, and real estate is one of the most secure ways to do that. Um,
Absolutely.
Wanted to talk a little bit more on the state end. I know we talked about it in April from that fair housing side, which is the law, but in terms of housing equity, what what would you guys want to see in Tallahassee, and how does Aura's RPAC kind of work with elected officials or lawmakers to kind of push your agenda forward?
Yeah, so when we talk about RPAC, the Realtor Political Action Committee, those funds we allocate are dedicated to having, elected officials help their campaigns push them forward into, going ahead and pushing those real property rights. So, but we also do, on the legislative side, we write bills as well. We have a hand in it and we try to submit bills to protect the real property rights. So, unfortunately, when it comes to an equity conversation, right now we are so focused on keeping people in their property. So
Mm,
with rising insurance, we recently, sent it out to all 22, or what is it, 32,000 members in the Orlando Regional Realtor Association, and really amongst the whole Florida Association of Realtors.
mhm.
We sent out, a call to action to send in letters to the elected officials during this special session that was called for
Yes.
rising insurance costs.
Mhm.
We have 3 bills in there that are helping to try to mitigate those risks. Now, remember, those 3 bills have to go through committees and they have to go through a long process, right?
Mhm.
I always think of the old school House Rock. video on just a bill. And and it goes through so much. So we write letters to our local politicians, and we make sure that our voice is heard in pushing those bills that we already put so much financially back into.
Mhm.
So that's one topic that we are. And again, it's mostly about keeping people in their properties, but keeping it affordable so that they can live their lives.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you for explaining that. I was thinking Schoolhouse Rock too with that, because that is, and that's actually one of the reasons why we do this show, because we want to educate people. Probably don't make it look as cool and fun as that.
As Schoolhouse Rock, right? Who can get that cool, right?
Right, but yeah, one of the things we do want to do is educate our folks on how things work, like how who speaks to whom, at the state level, at the local level, which organizations speak on behalf of residents, which organizations speak on behalf of businesses, things like that. So we definitely
Yeah.
appreciate, yeah, we appreciate what you guys are doing for sure. And just in kind of wrapping things up, I know this was a special edition, guys, so it's a slightly shorter discussion, but I did want to um, offer you the opportunity, on the topic of housing equity. What are some other things that you feel the audience needs to know that maybe we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, so it's definitely a topic that needs to be talked about, and we're studying it at the National Association of Realtors. They're giving us the data that we need to, empower you as local buyers. We bring it to our local market, right? Something to really utilizes the tool of a real estate agent.
Mm,
We want to sit down and talk to you. We want to guide you through this process. But I think partially what happens when you're in that process is that a lot of people feel like maybe I'm not qualified right now. Maybe I don't have enough credit. But unless you get the conversation going with a real estate agent and they get you connected to a lender and we pull that initial credit pull and we guide you through how much we need to save, a lot of real estate professionals want to guide you not only in what you need to save to purchase in the current market, but real estate professionals really want to guide you in what it looks like for home ownership afterwards. In Orlando, we have a lot of 45 builds out here. We need to make sure that you have enough, saved up in your savings for a
mhm.
roof or a water heater or those small items that do make an impact on your quality of life. So again, just sitting down with that real estate professional, I can tell you if you call somebody in your phone right now, they would be so thrilled that you called them and set up an appointment to walk you through what you can expect in this market. And even if it's not for today, we're happy to talk to you about what tomorrow looks like or a year or 2 years from now, right? So
Right.
just utilizing the tool of a real estate agent and a real estate professional that wants to work with you. Now, remember, a realtor, right? That means that they are bound by the code of ethics, not a licensee. A licensee is just a real estate agent, so they went through the school. A realtor is bound by the code of ethics, so we will deal honestly and fairly and make sure that you're well on your home to purchasing your first home.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for making that distinction, by the way, because I've always wondered that. I've always wondered what I've always seen realtor in all caps with the trademark symbol, and I was like, I wonder what that is.
That means they are bound by the code of ethics. Another really small tip is just to get a little bit more educated on the topic of
Yes.
equity. I actually have two books that I always recommend to people, and it's actually Cased by Isabel Wilkerson. This is
Oh,
a great book that kind of breaks down how the American system has, essentially been at fault and we can do things, and there is talk of the future of like how we can improve on this, how we can get more educated and get better. But what I've also noticed is that this is not just affecting lower income or fixed income families. This topic is actually affecting families that are well above that are in higher tax brackets than definitely
interesting.
myself. Yeah, and a lot of it is because of financial illiteracy, and I think that's something that we struggle with in America. I can see it in my daughter's curriculum. I do not see anything about economics or how money really works all I see is how they're able to balance a checkbook, which we don't even utilize anymore.
Right.
So another book I like to recommend to people who just want to get more informed is Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. Or you can always just work with me as your professional, and then you don't have to read any of those, and I got it for you. So, yeah, just those two books really help with the topic in terms of equity and understanding why it's so important to have that conversation sooner rather than waiting later, since the feds have already talked about they will continue to raise interest rates and
Yeah,
at the rate of people stop buying, to the point where people will just stop leveraging debt and stop buying. And then at that point, we do have to be worried about real estate investors because they do stay liquid or they know how to pull from their other assets. So,
very true. Very
yes.
true. Thank you for that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to, make sure to hit up Alexis in terms of having her as your your realtor with the trademark symbol that is
Mentor
bound.
and coach, that comes for
Yes.
free.
Her email address is right there on the screen, so that way you'll be able to get a hold of her, ask her any questions, and get started on your homeownership journey. Alexis, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great one, y'all.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us for this special edition of FNN Politics and Power. We will have Alexis back on because she is such an awesome resource as it relates to real estate and on the RPAC side, kind of real estate and kind of law together, politics together. So thank you so much. We appreciate you, Alexis. Take care.
Thank you all.
Absolutely. And guys, we're going to take a brief commercial break. I'm going to come back and give you a bit of a, give you a bit of a coming attractions for what's coming up next week. So in the meantime, stay tuned. I will be right back after this break.
The Florida Lottery is proud to support education by contributing billions of dollars to Florida schools and awarding countless Bright Future scholarships so Florida students can do more than just dream of a brighter future. They can create one. Learn more at flalottery.com.
And I'm back, guys. Just to wrap things up very briefly, you'll catch me again at the regular time next Thursday at 1 p.m. when we will be interviewing Ms. Rachel Flaken, who is the House District 36 candidate. She is running on the Republican side. So we'll be having that conversation with her. So make sure you tune in here at FNN News TV next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch us at FNN News TV on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you click that bell icon so you never miss a single update for any of our shows. All right. But in the meantime, thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys for your wonderful patience and your social media interactions. Please, if there's anybody you want me to talk to, let me know. Leave a comment below and let me know. I'll be glad to talk with them. In the meantime, have a great rest of your Thursday afternoon. See you.